Good evening, everyone. This is Jatinder Kokhar, Public Services Director with City of College Park. We are all gathered here to talk about public safety issues in City of College Park, and there are quite a few folks in attendance. I hope every one of you got an opportunity to look at the agenda that we had shared with all of you through different venues. Um, there are different, items as a part of the agenda on our meeting tonight. I hope that everyone knows everyone else who are in participation for this meeting. I want to request Major Kaladi to talk about his report and what's going on in his world. Please go ahead, Mr. Kaladi.
All right, well, thank you. And good evening to everybody. Tonight, we're going to talk about crime in general for the second quarter for the city of College Park, and that will cover the months of April, May, and June. We had a good quarter. Our first quarter, we had 114 incidents. During the second quarter, we had 44 incidents. So that's a good decrease for the city. Sharon, if you would like, if you could throw the slide up there, I appreciate it. The next slide, please. Okay, this is just a slide looking at all the crimes throughout the city, and we'll go through some of them individually. So it gives you an idea of the pockets that we see crime in, and it's usually almost identical every quarter. Next slide, please. All right, this slide is going to indicate the commercial robberies we had, or I'm sorry, not commercial, citizen robberies we've had in the city. So we've had 3 citizen robberies during the second quarter, and I'll just briefly go through each one. The first one occurred on May 1st at 1:45 p.m. in the 4500 block of College Avenue. This is basically a incident dating over an individual that met somebody on a dating app. That individual stole some merchandise by force with displayed a handgun. The good news is that we made 1 arrest in that incident. The second robbery we're going to talk about occurred on May 20th. It occurred in the 4300 block of River Road. This is a unarmed citizen robbery. This basically is going to stem from a sexual assault. The good news is we made an arrest in that case also. And the last citizen robbery occurred on June 17th in the 9000 block of Baltimore Avenue. The victims were standing outside their hotel, smoking a cigarette. Suspects pulled up in a vehicle. They jumped out, displayed handguns, took items from the victims, and fled the scene. That case is still active at this time. Sharon, we go to the next slide, please. This slide is just going to indicate where we have had assaults. I'm not going to go through any of them, but just gives you an idea where they're occurring at. You can go to the next slide, Sharon. All right. During the second quarter, we had a few burglaries. I'm not going to go through all of them unless there's questions, but I will say this. We did make an arrest in one of the burglaries, and that was the one that was in the 8700 block of Baltimore Avenue. It's basically the victim and suspect are known to each other, but we're able to make an arrest in that case. We've had 2 commercial burglaries at the Park Bicycles, located in the 7300 block of Baltimore Avenue. The first one occurred on June 26th. The second one occurred on a little bit later on the same day, around 10 o'clock at night. We were able to identify the suspect, but unfortunately, we were unable to charge the suspect. He's under 13 years old. He's 12. He's a resident of Washington, D.C. And due to the law regarding criminal justice reform, property crimes, we cannot arrest a juvenile unless he's the age of 13 and older. Next slide, please. Just briefly going to show you where we have our theft from autos and our other thefts throughout the city during the second quarter. Next slide. It's just a map showing where reported stolen vehicles, where vehicles were taken in the city. Next slide, please. Just one of our heat maps showing where the crimes are being committed. The darker areas where you have more reported crimes. This is almost identical to almost every quarter. Next slide, please. Same thing. You just go to the next slide. Just another one of our slides for heat mappings. And it's basically showing you where officers are stopping individuals for suspicious activity. So the blue is where crimes being committed. The yellow is where our officers are actually stopping people, questioning them, et cetera, et cetera. So we're really on top of it. And I think two more slides. Next slide, please. I'm not going to go over these. It's just a graph. Looking at violent and non-violent crimes. And the next slide, Sharon, you can put that up. Everybody take a look at it. These are your totals of crimes occurring month by month for the first 2 quarters of the year. So for the second quarter, we had a decrease in citizen robberies. The first quarter, we had 7. The second quarter, we had 3. So it's a good decrease. Unfortunately, we had an increase in assaults. So we went from having 7 the first quarter to having 14 on the second quarter. That was a property crime. We will look at, I'm sorry, that was violent crimes. If you want to look at property crimes, our burglaries increased from 8 the first quarter to 11 the second quarter. We had a decrease in theft from autos. We went from 35 the first quarter down to 20 the second quarter. And we also had a decrease in theft from autos, only by 1. So we went from 24 to 23. And just some of the trends I'll just speak about real quickly. During the second quarter, we had 4 incidents where license plates were stolen off vehicles. We had 8 vehicles that had their tires or rims stolen. We had 5 incidents of shoplifting at the CVS in the 8300 block of Baltimore Avenue. We have 5 incidents where bicycles were stolen. And when we look at stolen vehicles, we had 3 Kias or Hyundais that were stolen in the city during the second quarter. And we had 8 gas and electric scooters that were stolen. So not a bad report. Sharon, if you don't mind, if you could show the video, and I'll just talk about the video after you put it up, after you play it. So what I'll say about this, a resident called us on Saturday regarding this type of reckless behavior in the city. If you noted the person that was on the red scooter, that individual we were able to apprehend later on in the day. He was charged on numerous traffic citations. 3 of those he must appear in court for. And that vehicle or that scooter was impounded. That same individual ran from another officer that works in the city. And as everybody's aware, we have a no chase policy regarding minor crimes such as this. We're looking into obtaining charges for the incident where he ran from the officer, fled from the officer, and failed to stop. So we're probably adding additional charges to him. We're currently in the process of looking at the others. I believe there's a total of 5. I think we're kind of close to identifying 2 of the others. And if we're able to do so, we'll apply for charges on those individuals. So what I'll do is I'll open it up for any questions regarding crime over the second quarter. Well, that's good news. No questions. Sharon, I can't see everybody. There's nobody has their hand up, Sharon?
Sorry, no, we have no questions.
Okay.
Nothing in the chat. Mayor Kabir did joined us a bit late. I'm not sure if he'd like to see anything repeated or has any questions for you.
No, thank you. Sorry, I'm a little late. I want to thank our officers for doing a fantastic job in apprehending the scooter violators last weekend. That was wonderful. You know, it's been a constant problems throughout the city. You know, these guys don't have any license plate or anything, and it is actually hard for officers to chase. Because it could be dangerous, but they did a pretty good job. So keep up the good work. Is it someone's telling me it is not a very common thing to apprehend them, but is there any guidelines the officers actually use as when apprehending the scooter violators on the police side? Like how many we don't actually hear that very often, but it was a very good and refreshing news that the officers did a pretty good job this past weekend.
So, James, do you want to shed some light on what Mayor Kabir has asked here?
Think you're muted.
He may have just lost his connection.
Oh, I lost connection?
No, Major Coletti appears to have dropped.
Oh, okay, okay. It's okay, okay, we can come back and discuss it.
So just to answer your question, Mayor Kabir, I think we have no chase policy. That is a overriding policy from Prince George's County Police Department. And there may be some factors, they are reluctant. I think the way we have apprehended couple of previous violators out there, I think council and some of the stakeholders in the city, they have been providing or funneling information to the contract police officers, and they have been able to locate those people who indulge in that kind of behavior, and they have been ultimately able to go to their homes and have a very assertive, firm conversation with them that this kind of behavior is not going to be tolerated. And we have been successful in that. But this was like amazing for them to really get a
Yeah.
person caught, and like they were able to 17 violation were issued for this particular person, and they're also trying to pursue. There were about 3 of them. They're also pursuing the other 2, and if they have good enough evidence, they may be able to pursue them as well. So I'm just giving this on behalf of my conversation with Major Coletti, but that's how they have been very proactive. And I want to, really congratulate our contract police program officers, especially Major Coletti and Sergeant Winecoop, and a couple of other officers as well. They have done really a, decent job in apprehending these kind of bad actors in our community.
Thank you. Yeah, I do share your feelings as well. They did an amazing job. A resident actually asked me, unfortunately, he could not join. I was asking if the person who was arrested is he a minor or a juvenile underage?
So all we know so far, Mayor Kabir, is that that person is a City of College Park resident. I don't think they divulge into more information on that until or unless they have really completed the investigation and completed the case. If and when Major is able to get connected, I will ask him that question. But so far, what we have is just that the person is City of College Park resident. Is that what your understanding is, Mr. Young? I think that is all that we got
Yeah,
from them.
yeah. My understanding, it's not a juvenile, but they still have to go through that process of working through the case. I think Ms. Magnus has a question for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, my question, and I guess with Major Coletti, is it may not be able to be answered, except that I was wondering what kind of stuff from the stealing from, theft from autos is the category. Are people just not locking their cars, or are they locking it and people actually breaking into the cars? And then what kind of categories of stuff are they stealing?
We can definitely pose that question to Major Coletti and pass that information on back to you. But I know in my previous engagements with our contract officers, it's mostly been a crime of opportunity in College Park, where the car owner has left something in sight, and that's usually what makes that crime take place. And it varies. It varies from particularly if you see anything of value in there, is usually when you see a car window broken or them break into the car. But that usually is a crime of opportunity where somebody has either left the car open, they've left something in plain sight. But we'll definitely pose that question to them and get back with you, Ms. Magnus.
Okay.
All right, let's keep plugging along our agenda here.
Looks like Major Coletti joined us.
Are you there, Mr. Coletti?
Yes, sir. How's this?
Awesome. So, Mr. Coletti, I think Carol Magnus, she had a question regarding, the details about the car thefts or what's happening. Are the car being, broke, people are breaking the windows and all that, or like they want you to speak a little bit more on the details of these kind of crimes.
Yeah, the only thing I can tell you is it's a combination of several factors. One factor is people leave their valuables in their cars that are visible. The vehicles are left unlocked. We know that suspects walk up and down the streets late at night. They just try the doors. If the door's open, they go in and take whatever they can find. In other incidents, they do break the glass to get into the vehicle. So it's a combination. One's not greater than the other. But we do see a lot of victims that leave their doors unlocked. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. I hear a yes nod from Carol, so that's a yes. Let's keep moving on our agenda here. Sharon, would you be kind enough to play that, health officer's video, please? Sharon, we don't have the audio.
I'm sorry, one moment, please. It was playing clearly earlier.
Thank you, Sharon.
Never fails that it won't work when after you test it.
Isn't the text already displaying with the questions and answers?
Pardon me?
Sharon, I do see the display of answers and question from Rena versus the health officer.
How to protect your family.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Levy.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, thank you so much. I think what everybody wants to know is what is rabies and how do you get it?
Rabies is a virus that attacks the nervous system. It's usually spread through saliva or mucus from a bite or scratch from an infected animal. Once the symptoms of rabies start, it is almost fatal. The good news is we have a
Thank you, Sharon. I'm not sure about others, but I was missing a lot of audio on the video that we have played. But I saw a couple of comments, and I wanted to make sure that we share this video link with all the folks in participation uh, in this meeting.
I will definitely put the link in the chat again. I'm sorry, it was working earlier. It was quite clear and loud. And I do apologize for technology failing me this evening.
Okay, do you mind sharing the code enforcement video? Just make sure if it's not functioning, then maybe we want to provide the link for that as well. Public Services Director for City of College Park. Department of Public Services manages animal control, code enforcement, licensing and permits, parking enforcement, and public safety. We greatly enjoy providing our services to the community, but many don't fully understand what we do and how we can assist you. We are excited to present you with a video series focusing on different aspects of the Public Services Department. Enjoy this video and come back to learn more.
Hello, my name is Lisa Leonetta. I'm a code enforcement supervisor with the City of College Park. May is Building Safety Month, and College Park wants to do its part in raising awareness about the importance of building safety and the importance of the annual house inspection.
The Code Enforcement Division oversees building and construction permits, occupancy permits, city code violations, noise and litter control, fire safety inspections, and of course, housing inspections. We enforce all city codes pertaining to property maintenance and ensure compliance with city codes through the annual rental inspection program.
You can follow Jermaine to see what a typical house inspection looks like.
Code enforcement officers are certified professionals authorized to conduct annual inspections to determine the condition of rental properties, including apartments, hotels, motels, single-family dwellings, rooming houses, fraternities, and sororities located within the city to safeguard the health and safety of the occupants and the general public. Housing inspections are scheduled and conducted usually in response to complaints of property maintenance violations or when mandatory inspections are required by the city code, such as annual inspections of rental properties.
I'm Officer Cottrell with the City of College Park Code Enforcement Division. On residential annual inspections, the main thing we check for is safety and just basically about the livability. You walk into a room, you scan the room, you look around, we're looking across, and we're scanning the bottom of the room. So as we're looking around the property, we're looking for anything that could be potentially dangerous or hazardous. Tell them to clean this up. This is clearly a tripping hazard. Oftentimes you need to change your air filters. So this is a bedroom. There's your light. So as you look, that window right there, it must always be unobstructed because this is a bedroom that only has one window. This is a smoke alarm, and you just simply press it to test it, and you wait a few seconds, and then it will go off. We always try to check these to make sure that they're sturdy and capable of potential use, because in some of the smaller homes, we have the HVAC system and even sometimes the water heaters are upstairs in the attic. We want to always try to check all doors. You just look inside, and then you check for any type of wall damage or any type of holes. This right here above us is an air vent. The tool is very dusty. I'm going to recommend that they get it cleaned. This is a 10-year smoke alarm and carbon monoxide detector. These are always on the outside of bedrooms. Okay, now before I open this window, these blinds are damaged. I want to recommend that they get replaced. Window works, has a screen. And that works just fine. And when we come into these restrooms, we check for several different things. In this case, check for lighting and if the exhaust fan works. And it's working, so it's sufficient. This black stuff that's all in this window, it'll be considered biological growth. So we normally let it run for a few seconds because you want to give it a chance to make sure they have hot running water. Always check underneath sinks. Everything is fine under there, and it doesn't look like anything's leaking. And they're good to go. Wash your hands afterwards. Next, we're coming into the kitchen area, which is usually the main focal point in most homes. Cabinet right here is actually damaged. Right here's a dishwasher, but you just want to make sure that everything looks okay. Because in some cases, what you'll have is people will have these and they won't be put in properly. We always check the stove. That one works. Okay.
Code violations observed during the inspection are listed in the Property Maintenance Residential Inspection Report and provided to the property owner, property agent, and tenant. This report serves as the correction order requiring correction of all listed violations within the time specified by the code and advising of the reinspection date for each item.
Here, I'm gonna have to talk to the property owner because he has tape. This room may not be legally used for sleeping. This room does not comply with fire escape requirements. This was put up by Officer Parada. This is where the water heater and the HVAC are. Take a look inside and you'll see, but this is in violation because they have paint and other chemicals and items inside of there that should never be stored inside of there, because if there's ever a fire, all those will be considered accelerants. This window does not operate properly under ICC codes or by the manufacturer because it doesn't open properly. Because it looks like it's just a hose that they need to move, and they need to fix that immediately because if there's a fire, that doesn't pass city codes. So the last part of the inspection is the exterior inspection. You look at the brick, you look at the foundation down low. You look up here, you see the roof line, you see the siding, you see the fascia. You look at these windows on the outside, and you just overall look at the side of the property. They have a gutter here that goes to either a sump pump or just a drain line that they've ran. Now that is in violation. And when I asked them what once was here and what was removed, and you can also see right here, there's a section of brush or a pile of brush that's right there. That can't just be sitting in someone's backyard. We're gonna have to do another in-person re-inspection, but we'll save that for another time. That's the end of this inspection. We can go to the next house.
Are there any questions regarding the code enforcement video that we have shared of any items? Those were raised by Officer Cottrell. Hearing none, I'm going to request to go to the next item. We wanted to briefly talk about, we have done a recent reorganization within Code Enforcement Division. I got Officer Lisa and then Officer Derek Daves present here in the meeting. please take it away and share what we have recently done. Lisa and then Derek.
Good evening, everyone. Beginning late July or early August of last year, and up until last week, Monday, code enforcement officers were divided into two teams. One team handled inspection and permits, and the other team managed enforcement and compliance. So after a year of giving this arrangement a try, we realized that reverting back to the previous code enforcement area assignments would better maximize our time and resources, considering the new ordinances that went into effect last year, and the more obvious the more structures going up for our officers to inspect. We found that there seemed to be an uneven distribution of workload depending on the time of the year. So with CEOs, so code enforcement officers, assigned to specific geographic areas, officers will now be the primary on the residential and commercial inspections, patrol, complaint investigations, and other calls for service in their areas. We believe that having a constant officer visible in an area will foster positive relationships between us and the residents. And this is crucial in our goal of achieving voluntary compliance. We find that a lot of times residents are simply not aware of what we can and cannot enforce. So when we have a good relationship with residents, they are more receptive to learning about code enforcement process and are even willing to share this knowledge with other residents and making our jobs a little easier for us. So we believe that having an officer assigned to one area and takes ownership of that neighborhood would better serve us all. And I guess Derek can talk about the area assignments and what we've achieved so far since the switch. Thank you.
So I agree with Lisa that I think moving forward, this will better utilize our resources. This will encourage foot patrol for the officer for that area to interact with a lot of the residents and establishing a nice relationship, a nice rapport for voluntary compliance, as we talked about with Lisa. We have a code enforcement officer that is covering Old Town and Calvert Hills. That is John Adams. And also our weekend noise enforcement officer, Dave Spalding, will also be assisting with Old Town and Calvert Hills. We have a code officer that will have College Park Estates, Lakeland, and Berwyn, and that is Jermaine Cottrell. We have code enforcement officer Parada, which would be doing the east side of Hollywood, which would be from Route 193 north all the way through Sunnyside. Code officer Danny Cottrell will be doing the west side of Hollywood, which is between Rhode Island Avenue and Baltimore Avenue, from Blackfoot all the way up through Niagara Road. And then we have split the other area that used to be a code officer, Nunez, who has moved on to a different department. So we split up. College Park Woods will now be with code officer Parada. Crystal Springs will be code officer Cottrell. And Danny Lackner will have Audubon and Cherry Hill and up through the IKEA and Camden complex as well. We are in the process of hiring a new code enforcement officer, and once they're fully trained and turned over, then they will take over for Nunez's area when that happens. Again, we think this is definitely going to be best utilizing our resources moving forward. As you can see, we have a lot of apartment complexes that have come on board in the last couple of years, and we got even more coming up. So we'll be doing all those inspections as well. We do all hands inspections on those apartment buildings. So when we do those complexes, we utilize all of our code officers during that inspection. And that is all I have. If anybody has any questions.
All right, hearing none, I would like to thank Lisa and Derek for giving a debrief on the recent reorganization that has happened. Oh, okay, we got question from Mayor Kabir.
Actually, Councilmember Hugh will probably raise his hand first. Hugh, please go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was just wondering if there is like a schedule of when these inspections happen, to the sense that the residents, the renters or the landlord knows when they're coming along and can adjust things just prior to the inspection to make it look like, 4 people live there instead of 7 people.
So we do notify them that the inspections are done on an annual basis, and it's based on when the residential occupancy permit expires. So they will be contacted that it's time to renew their permit. They complete the application, and then we schedule an inspection with the owner, let them know when we are coming. Yes. We have in the past, we've tried to do surprise inspections and knocked on the door, and we don't get a good response from there. Usually they will not answer the door.
So basically the landlord knows and lets the tenants know to expect you guys so that they open the doors, I guess.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So the law also states that the landlord has to give the tenants notice whenever somebody's going in for an inspection. Just like if somebody was going in to do a repair, you have to give the tenants notice to let them know. That's the law. So
I've known occasions where the kids next door would make comments to me. Some of them realize my past position. We're not on council, and they said, "Oh, we're having an inspection tomorrow, so we have to take this mattress and stand it up somewhere on a random wall or something in a closet. No, because there's an extra person staying here that it's not on the lease or not. There's more than 5 and stuff like that." So I'm like, oh.
That has been, that has been a challenge for us over many years. It's about what we can prove, and we may have reason to believe based on residents or tenants' statements, but citing them for overcrowding that we have been able to do in the past, it's a little difficult because it's what we can see during the inspection. And unfortunately, and Derek will probably agree with me on this, the fact that we have to notify them of inspections, it does give them time to prepare the property for us. So about what we do, our due diligence, we check every closet during inspections, and if there's any indication that a room is being used as a bedroom, we do note that. So if anything comes up, it shows that we saw it and we're reporting it. But again, we do check everything, and overcrowding has been one of our challenges, but it's also one of the most important ones that we have to enforce.
Can you familiarize me with like the fines, the consequences of this overcrowding? In part of your gathering of this information, it needs to be something that in the intent of taking it to court and all that.
So Prince George's County zoning is the one that talks about overcrowding. It's not a city code. It's a Prince George's County zoning ordinance, which we do have limited authority per our MOU. So we will cite it under the Prince George's County zoning ordinance. If we go back and it is still not in compliance and still overcrowded, then we forwarded it to our city attorney, who then will go ahead and process it and move it forward to court.
So usually they try to meet some form of compliance before it goes that far.
Yes, we'll cite it for overcrowding. And then we schedule a reinspection and we go back to confirm that they have reduced it to no more than 5 unrelated people.
Have we taken it to court often to overcrowding issues?
Because they brought it into compliance every time we've cited it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mayor Kabir, I know your hand has been up for a long time. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the update of the reorganization. I think the model will improve the engagement for officers with the local community because they'll be spending the area on their respective areas more and more instead of throughout the city. I think that was probably the idea. So thank you for working on it. One question I have is Officer Nunes. He used to be a police officer, wasn't he? So is he going to be?
No, that's you're thinking of a cops officer.
Oh,
Nunez. No, it's not the same one. This is a different one that was a code enforcement officer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't
Officer Corporal
know that.
Nunez has been with the community policing for many, many years in College Park, but not the same person.
Yeah, you're right. It's a cops officer with Officer Lowen in the South College Park. So he has been with us for a while. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying it.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I do want to add on to what Derek and Lisa said. For any, like a tenant and owner of the condo or the apartment, which is being rented to a tenant, the right of privacy is with the tenant. And as, like Derek or Lisa explained earlier, so we have to make sure that anybody who has the right of privacy within their unit is always given the notice, and we don't go there until unless we have their permission. And that is a requirement by law. And it's a property rights issue, and we have to make sure that we abide by our city code, our building codes, and also our county and state codes as far as property rights are concerned. And that is not something that we take lightly. Alan, you still have your hand up? You got something follow up or? Okay, I see that hand down now. So
No, I did have a question.
Please go ahead.
So is it, so I know you have to give advance notice of inspection, but I'm thinking of a few scenarios where one that I experienced is that there were a number of people living in a house. It was one of these like restaurants where they put the employees in the house, and they probably had like 11 people in there. And they would like certain hours, like in the morning, the time when the work starts for them, you'll see them all going out, and at the end of work, you see them all walking in. Is that something you guys can like take evidence on that for data that, okay, this house is in violation by just observation externally versus, when you file for an inspection and all of a sudden they modify the place to look like there's only 5 people in there when there's actually 11, but then you could use this other evidence. And how you would gather this evidence, I mean, technology is changing every day. You can have a car parked there with a USB camera, video camera in there or something. I don't know, but is that an option? Is that something that's viable? We can use in court to stop some of these things.
Yeah.
Also, vehicle. There's another one that people has asked me, is the number of vehicles registered to that address as an indicator of overcrowding.
So I think, Alan, all the questions that you have raised in this last part of your conversation, they are all valid, like points to be considered in an overcrowding scenario. I will let you know, I think a number of vehicles parked around a property and then, like a number of like people receiving mail at that property at any point of time, especially in the evening or nighttime. I know many jurisdictional code enforcement officers, they do nighttime investigation. A lot of people, they just put them, like do some surveillance there. But anything and everything that we want to present as an evidence to a judge, we have to make sure that we have discussed that with our city attorney, and we don't want to, like expand our authority on people's rights for any reason or rhymes of things. But what you just raised, they are all valid point. It just depends on our ultimate discussion with the city attorney, what is presentable and what is probably going to hold before a judge as far as an evidence is considered. Having said that, I would want probably Lisa or Derek to expand upon it and give you the reality check here.
Sure. I did come across a case where a resident complained about vehicles um, at a property, maybe like 7 vehicles seen over the weekend. And I personally went out there to investigate and did confirm all these vehicles there. And what the response that we got was, well, it was basically challenge. How would you know? What can't our residents have guests, overnight guests for parties? So then it we would have to go into challenging the lease. There's that, and then proving that the owners of those vehicles are not residents there, because this is a property with a big enough driveway that could accommodate all these vehicles. So parking permits are not required. So that's just one scenario. I know working with parking, we have cited properties in the past when residents would apply for parking permits, and we are alerted of those extra passes, and that would indicate that there's more than 5 people living on a property. And then that's when we, begin enforcement. Here we have proof that all these different unrelated people are residing at this property. So there's a lot of factors to consider, but when we do have something that we can prove, whether it's an affidavit from uh, a resident who has a complaint about the property, willing to go to court, we take that and we run with it. And unfortunately, a lot of times, residents know or are somewhat coach. I believe that is the case, especially when we do our knock and talks. They know that 5 is the maximum that are permitted in a single family dwelling, but they choose not to disclose that. So even the complainants, a lot of times it's after they've left the property. That's when they complain about the overcrowding. And then it's hard for us to go into the property without notifying the owner of our visit to gather the evidence. So if a resident who is currently occupying a property has a complaint about overcrowding, that person can give us access to the property without giving notice to the landlord. And those are rare.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. I hope this is somewhat helpful, Alan, for your clarity to the question that you asked. Are there any other questions as it pertains to code enforcement so that we can, and if there are none, we could probably move on to the, oh, okay, I see Carol's hand up there. Go ahead, Carol.
I know that this code enforcement really was concentrating on inspections and overcrowding. Maybe for a future would be nice to hear about code enforcement, period. What's some of the rest other things, like the person doesn't mow their lawn, it's too high, or they have junk piled on the side of their house. You know, I don't know whether these are, you know, I've seen if the grass is too high, that the city will come out and mow it and then put a notice there, and they can put a lien on the property for the cost. Some of these other code enforcements, they don't, they weren't really covered tonight, and I understand that it might be useful to hear some of these other things that the code enforcement people do when it comes to whatever code enforcement, you know, entails.
Sure, Carol, I think these are all valid points that you have talked about, and we can expand on it later in our future meetings for public safety, because they are all connected together. I do want to ask Jim Miller, who is our parking enforcement manager. Jim, do you have to add anything on the parking enforcement scenario as far as it goes to multiple tenants on a given location?
Sure. Good evening, all. We do work with code enforcement rather closely, especially when it comes to residentially permit restricted areas. Of course, with the tenant laws by county zoning and City of College Park's rules and regulations, there is a limitation that council, when they approve a residential permit area for parking restrictions, there is a limit as to the number of permits allocated per property address. That helps to keep a lot of the people in line because they have to provide us with proof of residency. In other areas where you do not have residential permit restrictions, it becomes a free-for-all. And unfortunately, the situation that a lot of people encounter is where you have, you know, a property, you know, a residential property that's owner-occupied. And they can have up to 2 unrelated tenants as roommates or what have you. The issue is that if it is an owner occupied property, whether or not they're renting out a couple of rooms to tenants or not, they can have as many cars as they want as long as they are properly tagged, registered, and come back to that property address. With rental properties, the individuals that are on a lease agreement, they don't have to change their address to that College Park residence. They can maintain their property registration address from wherever they come from, whether it's in Maryland or another state. We just make sure they're in compliance with those regulations, and if it's out of state, that they also comply with Maryland registration laws with the non-resident permit.
All right. Thank you, Jim. I really appreciate your insight to the parking enforcement issue as it relates to the residential where rental properties are concerned. Thank you for giving insight to it. I'm going to move on to the next item, which is the last item on our agenda, and that is we are exploring the stop sign cameras. I would request our city manager to kind of shed some light on it, what we have done so far on that. Mr. Young.
Good evening, everybody. Right now, we're just in the preliminary phase. We'll be looking at a couple of intersections in each of the districts to get some preliminary data. So we'll be looking for intersections where there is a high number of people who are blowing through stop signs. This is using AI technology. So we'll be looking at approximately 2 locations, again, in each one of the districts. And then we'll be bringing that information back to the city council to take a look at. So you may see some apparatus that are out there. They're all solar powered, standalone machines, very similar to the speed cameras, but not as, but again, these are solar powered, and pretty much small display, but we'll be able to tell you all kinds of information, number of people, you know, jaywalking, a whole bunch of other things that are related to what happens at some of our intersections throughout the city. But you'll be seeing those deployed soon, and hopefully we'll bring an item to council sometime before the end of September.
Kenny, I think I would also like to add what you said. This is going to be a cost neutral, project or task or activity that the city would like to support. But the preliminary information that has been shared by the people who reached out to us is very encouraging and probably totally cost neutral as far as the installation is concerned, and they follow all the requirements. I think right now the agreement that the consultant had shared with us, it has all the indications of like being cost neutral and implementing the best technology from data point of view. So our city attorney is also going to look at it before we will get into any kind of discussion. As Kenny said, like we will probably at least looking for minimum 8 locations, 2 in each district. And I know Mayor had talked about this technology previously, and we wanted to make sure. I met this gentleman in MML conference in Ocean City, and I was intrigued by the level of data information that he has. And I wanted to make sure we kind of look into. So last week we had an opportunity to have a discussion. The guy gave us a very elaborate presentation. So that's where we are on this. Mayor Kabir, I see your hand up. Please go ahead.
So Zul, you're on mute.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. No, I just wanted to thank the staff for working on it. I wasn't expecting that this is coming so soon. I know from the city council we supported unanimously sending a letter to the state delegation to approve a bill, an enabling bill for this camera throughout the state of Maryland. So this is pretty new in the state of Maryland. So College Park will be the very first or one of the first municipalities and jurisdictions in the state of Maryland doing it. One suggestion, and it's up to you. I know you have so many other works to do. It might be helpful for the residents to get more information, and I know we have a wonderful videography team on the staff and the communication side. It might be a good idea. Either they make a new video or maybe reuse the existing video. I'm pretty sure there could be an YouTube video somewhere. Could probably post on the website, and they will appreciate. One last thing, I think it's a good news for Major Clarity and the entire contract police program, because it will free up many of our contract officers, sitting at the stop signs and doing the stop sign enforcement. Throughout my city council job, I've made so many requests to have a stop sign enforcement to the contract police officers. So I think it will free them up, and then they might be able to spend more time elsewhere, patrolling our streets and doing other jobs. So it's a win-win situation. So thank you for working on it.
Thank you, Mayor Kabir. I really appreciate your feedback and input on our level of progress here. I'm not sure. I think maybe Sharon is Mayor Pro Tem also on the call.
She did not join. She was here earlier. Apparently lost connection and did not return.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure if she's on the call that she gets an opportunity to express her feedback. But anyways, I think we are already past the time here. Anybody? Oh, okay. Alan, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I just want to verify that these stop signs, cameras, monitors, whatever, are they limited as for how many we can put up per county, district, or anything like that. I know the noise ones are.
No, they're not. They're not limited like the noise cameras. I think the noise cameras were limited to 3. The issue for these though are really not every intersection warrants placing one of these at a particular location. So they still have to be able to pay for themselves, so to speak. Even though it's a cost neutral, they have to be able to at least make sense at being placed out there. So that is a conversation that we'll have to have with the vendor as well if they're selected to move forward.
And how easily is it to change it? Like if we're putting in one location and finding compliance and move it to another location. Is that a easy or non-cost, or what's involved?
It's pretty much the way the program's kind of set up. It's set up to really be a very minimal cost to the city itself. And it is not difficult to relocate these. However, again, it's going to be a very we'll be looking at very carefully selecting the locations that we choose and not deploying too many at right off the get-go. We'll definitely looking at phasing them in different locations that make sense. There is a limitation on the way in which we're able to actually mount the camera systems. So there are some limitations. Not every intersection really has a great site. One of the positives that we saw from this is that it also enables us to capture actual video that we can utilize and show residents what a good stop is and what a one that is kind of a rolling stop, and being able to only record those events. So the way the machine works is it only records those events which there's a violation. So any of the other data isn't collected from those who are actually complying. So it's a very interesting technology, but it gives a lot of interesting data related to when we're seeing those occurrences happen.
Just one last question. Is this like a subscription service sort of way we do it, or is this where we own the device, we own, we host and capture the data ourselves?
It's very similar to how we run the speed camera program. You still have to have an officer certify the ticket and that it's a valid violation to issue the ticket. So that part doesn't change from the same way we operate the speed camera. So that isn't just another cost that has to be built into the program. And I want to say it's around $7 or so that the contractor collects on I think it's on a $45 ticket. And then we have whatever other costs that we might have to cover, which would be the contract officer that's reviewing the footage, those types of things.
It's not an annual or monthly service we're paying to a host company or something.
That is correct, and that is why it's not uploading every single video because it is using 5G technology.
I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Alan. I think the last call, we are already beyond the time here. I see 8:47. We were supposed to be here from 7:30 to 8:30. I want to respect everybody's time here. And thank you for being here today. And please stay tuned for our next quarterly meeting. And if you want us to expand upon some of the topic, please let us know.